Hey guys, I know it's a little after Christmas, so I hope you will still enjoy a celebration of my personal favorite Christmas movie, Gremlins. I had a holiday party to attend this year and wanted to try making my first croquembouche, but because this is Sugar Nerd, I had to add some pop culture flair and turn my croquembouche into a gremlin-infested Christmas tree. So first things first, the Gremlins cookies. I hope you'll forgive me reusing footage from my Star Wars cookie hacks video because we're using the Baby Yoda cookie hack here. Just take a typical angel cookie cutter and cut off its head. To create a gremlin cookie, you'll be using green, tan, and black royal icing. To create the stripes on the gremlin cookie, you want to make sure to add the tan while the green is still wet. But be sure to allow the icing to set between layers so that you can create some depth. Also be sure to cut a very small tip in your pastry bag. As you can see right here, you're going to be doing some very delicate work with it. For the mogwai cookies, you'll also be using the tan and black royal icing, this time with some brown and white. And I'll include a link to my go-to gingerbread and royal icing recipe in the description box below. Once all your cookies are made, it's time to turn our attention to the croquembouche. I won't lie, this is a big undertaking, but you can make things easier by splitting up your work between a few days. Up to 3 days ahead, you can make the craquelin, which will give color to your croquembouche Christmas tree. To make this, you need a half cup butter, 2/3 cup light brown sugar, and a cup of flour. With a hand or stand mixer, cream together the butter and sugar, then add the flour and stir by hand. The mixture will be pretty crumbly and you'll want to use your hands to knead until it comes together into a dough. I wanted to make red and green craquelin, so I split the dough up and added green food coloring to one and red to the other. Then just mix and knead until it kind of starts to resemble Play-Doh. Take the dough and sandwich it between 2 sheets of parchment paper, and then roll it out until it's quite thin, about 1/8 of an inch in thickness. Then just cover and refrigerate until ready to use. For the actual baking and construction, I enlisted the help of my friend Casey, who had made a croquembouche before. First, we cut out the craquelin into 1-inch rounds and set those aside to use later. Also, be sure to preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. For the pâte you'll need a cup of flour, 7 tablespoons butter, 5 large eggs, a tablespoon of sugar, half teaspoon salt, half a cup of whole milk, and half a cup of water. Heat the butter, sugar, salt, milk, and water over medium-high until the butter is melted and the mixture starts to boil. Then add the flour all at once and mix until it comes together into a dough. Continue stirring and cooking in the saucepan for about 3 minutes, slapping the dough up against the sides of the saucepan as you do. Then transfer the dough to the bowl of a stand mixer. With the mixer on low, add each egg one at a time, allowing the egg to incorporate before adding the next. And the dough is going to look kind of clumpy or curdled. That's normal. Just keep going, keep adding the eggs until you have a soft, smooth dough. Transfer the dough to a piping bag and pipe little 1-inch mounds onto a parchment-lined baking sheet. Then top each one with a round of your craquelin. When you transfer to the oven, you'll want to immediately lower the temperature to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Bake for 30 minutes, rotating the pans after 20. When the puffs are a deep golden brown, you'll want to turn off the oven and leave the oven door open for about 15 minutes. When the puffs have cooled, pierce the bottom with a sharp knife and either store for a day or fill immediately with the pastry cream. Speaking of, for the pastry cream, which can be made up to 3 days in advance, you'll need 1 cup of eggnog, 1 cup of milk, 4 egg yolks, a 1/4 cup of flour, a 1/4 cup of cornstarch, a 1/3 cup of sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon salt, an 1/8 teaspoon nutmeg, and 1 teaspoon vanilla. Start by whisking the egg yolks and the sugar. Then add the flour, cornstarch, nutmeg, salt, and vanilla and mix until well combined. Meanwhile, in a medium saucepan, heat the milk and eggnog until just simmering. Then remove from heat and remove a cup of milk to slowly incorporate into the egg mixture while whisking constantly. Be sure to pour slowly while mixing to ensure that you don't get scrambled eggs during this step. After all the milk is incorporated, add the egg mixture into the saucepan while whisking and heat on low, continuing to whisk until the mixture has thickened, and we'll coat the back of a spoon like so. Strain into a heat-proof container. And be sure to get as much pastry cream as you can through the strainer. Then, once cooled, cover with plastic wrap, pressed up against the surface to prevent a skin from forming, and refrigerate until ready to use. When it's time to assemble, transfer the pastry cream to a piping bag with a small round tip and fill each cream puff through the hole you put in the bottom. Then, to make the caramel, put 2 cups sugar and a 1/2 cup water in a medium saucepan and heat over medium-high until the caramel has reached a golden amber color. Then transfer to a heat-proof container, and it's time to make your tree. Carefully dip each cream puff in the caramel and stick it on your cake board. For a little extra structure security, we also used a craft foam cone covered in parchment paper, but you can build this completely freestanding if you feel up to the challenge. We just knew we were going to have to move this after constructing, so we didn't want to take a chance on it falling over. It's really helpful also to have a friend build this with you so that you can get the whole structure made before the caramel cools. If it gets to a place where it starts turning solid, you're just going to have to make it again. I'll also say at this point that if you are able to make this whole thing in one day, please do. It was still very tasty, but the pâte à choux does lose some crispness if you store it for a day, so some of that's made up for by the caramel. The hard caramel gives you some nice texture and crunch, but like many things, it's best when it's fresh. Once the whole tree was done, I used the same caramel to attach the gingerbread gremlins and a gingerbread star to the top of the tree. They weren't staying up as well as I liked, so I tried to dip a fork into the caramel and use the caramel floss to wrap around and keep the cookies in place, which sort of worked until this happened. Not to worry, because we dipped it in caramel again, more so this time, and it stayed up for the rest of construction. And it's done. I am, for the large part, really happy with how it came out. The tree wasn't quite as perfect as I wanted it to be, but I feel like it sort of lends to that 80s Christmas tree aesthetic, especially with all the candy floss. It looks sort of like tinsel. And now, the part that I was most stressed about, which was moving the croquembouche from Casey's apartment to where the party would be taking place, which was luckily right down the hall, but there was still a bit of transfer that had to happen. Please pay no attention to my grandma hair, by the way. My hair was in curlers and setting, and I didn't want to get anything into the croquembouche while we made it. Success! And it's time for the party. And please allow me a self-indulgent moment to show off this dress that I made. I'm very proud of it. Unfortunately, once the party got going, I kind of forgot to take footage of people actually eating the croquembouche, but it did stay up until we allowed people to eat it about halfway through the party. So I'd consider it a rousing success. I hope you all have happy holidays with people that you love, Happy New Year, and until next time, happy baking.